So a lot has been made on the Shedeur Sanders falling so far in the draft thing. It's been talked to death at this point. But one thing that has gotten mentioned a lot is that there really isn't precedent for a fall quite like Shedeur Sanders. Projected to go, I believe, was 11th in the draft, fell way further than that. And it's true. There is not, at least in recent history, a clear example of something like this happening. But we do have plenty of examples of quarterbacks falling further than we thought they would, right? And I figured it could be an interesting video to go back and look at those players and talk about what happened with them. Did it work out? Did it not work out? What ended up happening? So, okay, bit of an interesting video. We're only going to go back to 2016, so we're going to talk about roughly the past 10 drafts, just because that's as far back as the consensus big board will go, and talk about the players that fell and why they ultimately ended up falling. And we're going to go We're going to go draft class at a time. So we can go in reverse chronological order, I suppose. We're going to start off with, this was 2023, as in 2024. Every quarterback either got drafted when they were supposed to or before they were supposed to. But here, the year prior, 2023, Will Levis, just so you know what you're looking at, the first number is when they were projected to be drafted. The second number is when they ended up being drafted. So Will Levis was projected to go 6th. And keep in mind, there was a late push for him to go a lot earlier than that. A lot of people thought he might be going like 1, like that was a legitimate thought. I think there was a Reddit post that said he was going to go 1, and people ran with it. That did not end up happening. He went pick 1 of round 2. I believe that was, or was that a draft? That might have been a draft actually where there was only 31 first round picks, but he went very early on in round 2, pick 33, and played like a guy who maybe should have fallen further. I don't know. He showed some flashes, but definitely has not been a star quarterback, and definitely is one you look at probably closer to where he was projected to go is fair, or probably closer to where he actually went is fair than when he was projected. Hendon Hooker, another guy he got drafted by the Lions at pick 68. Remember, the Lions spent an early 3rd round pick on him because he was considered to be a very good prospect. A lot of people liked him, but an older prospect and coming off of some injuries. So I think it's hard to tell with him. He really hasn't gotten playing time, and it's not because he hasn't been good enough, but you have Jared Goff, you're not going to put Hooker over him, right? So because of that, that's kind of where they have him. The draft class prior is these probably have the best, closest examples to Shedeur Sanders that you can come up with. Like Malik Willis was projected to go right around when Sanders went, and he still went 50 picks before Sanders did, but still, that's a similar, right? We're talking somewhat in the ballpark here, just not to as strong of an extent. But Desmond Ridder, Matt Corral, and then even Sam Howell. Sam Howell actually has the biggest gap that we will talk about from when he was supposed to be drafted to when he ultimately ended up getting drafted, of nearly 100 spots, which again, still not on Sanders' level, and also he was projected to be a mid-second round pick, not a relatively early first-round pick, but still, we're talking again, maybe not, if not in the ballpark, at least the same sport here, right? But for these 4 players, we can go 1 through 1. Malik Willis did actually show some flashes with Green Bay. Granted, they really had, they really were not asking a lot out of him. He had training wheels on that offense, but when he had to make something happen, he did a pretty good job at making something happen. I don't know if he's played like a top 10 pick, even in Green Bay, but maybe there's something there. We'll see if he ends up getting playing time, but still, been in the league for several years, has barely gotten playing time. You can't say it's been a smashing success. Ridder did get playing time, and I thought at times looked okay, just really struggled to protect the football. That was always his issue, which is why the Falcons ultimately moved off of him by drafting a quarterback in the top 10 and paying Kirk Cousins $45 million a year. So they really went in the opposite direction after Ridder, putting a lot of resources into the quarterback position. Matt Corral, I don't know if he's gotten any playing time in the NFL. I can't think of him there, which is unfortunate because he was kind of a fun quarterback to watch in college. Sam Howell, again, did get some playing time in Washington, just didn't really work out. So none of these quarterbacks you would say, they all fell, and it feels like they all probably should have fallen. A couple of quarterbacks, I don't know if, again, we're getting to very different things now, right? There is no perfect example with Shedeur Sanders. So, we have sometimes we're talking about quarterback that was projected to go round 2, going round 5. Here we have quarterbacks projected to go early round 1, end up going kind of middle round 1. Both Mac Jones and Fields were projected to go top 5. They fell to 15th and 11th, respectively. Remember, this was one no one knew who the 49ers were taking at pick 3. So because of that, like, Fields and Jones got mocked to being 3 enough that it kind of just bumped both of them up. Once they fell, something like this wasn't that crazy. But also, again, neither one of them worked out. Fields has shown some flashes, but also has, bounced around several teams now. So it certainly didn't work out for the Chicago Bears. He didn't even make it to the end of his rookie deal with the Bears, and neither did Jones, Jones did have that good rookie year, but didn't do much else since then. The next couple of picks, so you have, the year prior, this was Dwayne Haskins and Drew Lock. If you remember, Daniel Jones, who was projected to go behind both of these guys, went ahead of both of these guys, and kind of maybe ended up being the best quarterback there. Haskins didn't work out. Also, who would have worked out in the Dan Snyder era? I don't know, but it didn't work out. Drew Lock as well ends up falling to round 2. That's another pretty big gap. He was someone viewed as a Shedeur Sanders level of prospect when he was drafted, or when going into the draft. He fell to round 2, and ultimately, again, did show some flashes, is in the league, right? Like, not a horrible player, but not a star either. Okay, then we have this draft, the 2017 draft, the kind of iconic draft at this point, where only Baker Mayfield was drafted ahead of when he was supposed to go. I think he was supposed to go like 4th. He got drafted at 1, of course. But Darnold, I don't even know if it's fair to put all these guys on here. I don't know. So I just decided to throw them all on here, and we can talk about them individually. Darnold was projected to go 1. He goes 3. Allen projected to go 3, he goes 7. Rosen projected to go 6, he goes 10. And then Lamar projected to go 15, he goes 32. Darnold has kind of finally worked out. We had a good year with the Vikings last year, although, again, no one could argue it worked out with the Jets, or that pick was successful. And also, he still was drafted with the 3rd overall pick. Not really a huge fall there. Kind of similar to like with Josh Allen. Falls a few spots according to his projection, which is interesting because he was, a lot of times, a lot of people were also not a fan of the pick. It was a very controversial pick at the time when they traded up to 7 to select Josh Allen. I think it worked out all right for them. Josh Rosen was definitely one that did not fully work out. And then Lamar Jackson, this is probably the best example throughout this entire list of a quarterback who fell and shouldn't have, right? Lamar was projected to be a mid-first. He ended up getting picked 32nd and has won multiple MVPs, been to a conference championship game, right? It's nowhere near the drop-off that Shedeur Sanders has had, right? So for viewing it from that lens, it's not going to get you too excited, but ultimately it does show that at least there is some evidence of every now and then a quarterback who falls shouldn't have. And then finally, 2016, Paxton Lynch projected to go 15th. He goes 26th. Connor Cook projected to go 38th. He ends up falling all the way to pick 100. Neither one of those amount to much in the NFL as well. And that is essentially the list of, in the past 10 years or so, quarterbacks who have fallen well below where we thought they would get drafted. So what are the takeaways with something like this? Well, the first takeaway that I personally have is one that I already kind of had heard of. It's a kind of established thing, which is usually for when a team quote unquote reaches on a player in general, usually it ends up being like a reach. Whereas if a player ends up falling and being a quote unquote steal, usually they end up actually playing like how they were when they were drafted. So, like, for example, if a player was projected to be picked with pick 35, but ended up getting selected with pick 15, usually they play like a guy who should have gone around 35th. However, if a player was projected to be 35th, but they get selected at 15th, they also usually end up playing like a guy who is supposed to go 35th. Kind of both ways, that's what ends up happening. Because if you reach on a player, it only takes one team to make a quote-unquote mistake, and so because of that, that happens. But if every team lets a player go past them, then usually it's for a reason. There have been exceptions. Lamar Jackson is the exception, but that really is the exception to the rule. Usually, if a quarterback falls in the draft, it's for a good reason, and usually when there are exceptions, it's not like they're falling a full round in the draft. Maybe it'll fall half a round, or maybe it'll fall a few spots and then work out. That tends to be how it goes. But who knows? Maybe Shedeur Sanders will buck that trend, but that's what I think about all of this for now. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from ya, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.